We've all heard that confidence is insanely attractive to a woman, but how do you display confidence? What does it look like to her? And can you still appear confident even if you're nervous inside? In this video, I'm gonna share 5 weird confidence secrets that make you attractive as hell. And the best part of all 5 of these secrets that you're gonna discover is that not only are these secrets gonna make you look more confident, but more importantly, you'll very quickly feel confident with the women that you're dealing with. Hi, I'm Bobby Rio, and I'm gonna teach you 5 confidence secrets that changed my life, and I've taught them to my clients. Now, I call these secrets weird because they're definitely not the typical advice you'll get about confidence, and there's a little bit of counterintuitiveness to a lot of them. But when you use these secrets, you not only feel more confident, but your attractiveness level jumps a bunch of points in a woman's eyes. See, as a guy who was pretty shy growing up, I had trouble talking to people, let alone girls. So confidence was something that I struggled with for a long time because I had all these so-called faults, like I felt boring, I had trouble keeping a conversation going. I wasn't very experienced with girls, and I thought that they can just tell, right? And I was super scared of rejection. So whenever I was around a woman, all of that insecurity was noticeable to her. Now here's a big tip, a big secret that I discovered. It was one of the first things I discovered is the more you try to hide your insecurity or doubts or faults, the less confident you feel, and the less confident you feel, that means you're gonna look less confident. So right now I wanna give you 5 things that you can project an extremely attractive level of confidence to women. Okay, let's get into the first one. Okay, so the first secret I wanna go over is this idea of being shameless. And shameless is a term that I got from my good friend Rob Judge. And I think it's a really great term because a lot of the reasons that guys don't feel confidence is because they have shame. They have shame not only as they have shame about their desire as a man, meaning especially nice guys, when they're attracted to a woman in a sexual way, they feel a level of shame around that, almost like they have to hide it. And that hiding it kind of closes them off, and it makes them not be themselves because they don't want to, project this idea that they find a woman attractive. But also there's this idea of shame around aspects of maybe your personality or your opinions or your interests, or things like where you live, right? I have a lot of clients that maybe they contact me and they live at home, and they think that element is so detrimental to their success with women that they get around a woman and the whole time they're so worried about how am I gonna answer that question? Or they're very interested in a topic like Dungeons and Dragons, right? And that's what they do, or fantasy football, something that a woman might not find attractive in a man. And they have this weird shame around it that comes out whenever they're around a woman. Well, years ago, I was working with this guy, and his name was Nick. We actually called him Handsome Nick because he was the complete opposite of handsome. He was definitely not your typical good-looking guy. And he was also had all these weird interests. He was into like role-playing type stuff. He liked weird music that nobody liked. He had all these kind of weird interests, but he was extremely unapologetic about it all. He would come into work loudly talking about, this weird role-playing game he was playing with his friends last night. And he would be bragging about like going to this concert of this band that is this awkwardly, like nobody even knows of him, and he's bragging about it. He would talk to women that were, if you looked at him, you would assume that they were, multiple levels of attractiveness higher than them, but he would talk to them like it was totally natural for her to be talking to him, right? He didn't have any shame about the fact that he had like a scraggly hair and he had pockmarks all over his face. And the interesting thing was, Handsome Nick always had a girlfriend. He always was dating cool girls. And a lot of it, when I used to watch him, I used to go, how does Nick get all these girls, right? Because at the time I was studying a lot of this stuff and paying attention. And it really came down to this idea that he wasn't ashamed of who he was. He wasn't embarrassed by his weird interests or his pockmarked face and scraggly hair and kind of crooked teeth. He just accepted himself and projected that out. So that's one aspect of being shameless. The other aspect aspect of being shameless is not having shame about your desires as a man. Because a lot of times when we're around a really attractive woman, our whole demeanor is, I can't let her know that I find her sexually attractive. And whether you're out on a date or whether you start talking to her, a lot of times we want to hide that. And sometimes a woman will catch us looking at her, for instance, and she'll say oh, stop staring. And the nice guy is going to apologize and go, oh my God, I wasn't staring. A shameless attitude is like, listen, if you came out looking amazing, of course I'm going to stare at you, right? You don't have a shame around the fact that you were looking at her, okay? That's what this idea of shamelessness means. It means don't have shame around aspects of your personality. If you live at home, don't have shame around it. Obviously, anything that is less than ideal, you want to work to change that situation, right? This isn't an excuse to live a shitty life and not put any effort into how you look. It just means however you are at the moment, if you're living at home, don't feel shame around it. Like, talk about it like it's no big deal. That projects confidence, that lack of apologizing for who you are and what your circumstances are. So that's confidence secret number one. Be shameless and unapologetic about who you are as a man and what you desire as a man. So the next aspect of confidence with women, and this sort of relates to this idea of shamelessness, is detach from the outcome. So detach from the outcome. And this is something that's really interesting because if you watch a little kid, right? If you watch a little kid who's playing, let's say, soccer, that little kid will run around, he'll kick the ball, he'll have so much fun playing soccer. But then there comes a point where he gets introduced to this idea of being good or bad at soccer, right? He starts comparing himself. Well, that kid's good, that kid's bad, I'm good, I'm bad, right? It's now about the outcome of being good or bad, or it becomes the outcome of winning or losing, right? He may go out and if he doesn't win, he doesn't enjoy soccer, right? So that enjoyment of soccer is lost once he becomes attached to the outcome. Well, the same thing happens with guys and women. And a large part of our lack of self-confidence around a woman is this intense attachment to whether or not she likes me, she doesn't like me, she approves of me, she doesn't approve of me. And it affects almost every decision that we make with a woman. And when you talk about this idea of neediness, we all hear this concept that neediness is very unattractive. Well, neediness really comes from a few things. It comes from your need for a woman's approval, because again, you want the outcome is, I want her to like me, I need her to like me. So when you need that outcome of her liking you, that displays neediness, which projects a lack of confidence. It could become from a need for reassurance. So a lot of times when you're dating a woman and she maybe acts a little different or she's cold one night with you, all of a sudden you freak out because you're like, does she still like me? Did I mess up? And then all of a sudden you start asking her, is everything okay? Are you all right? And all of that neediness, that need for reassurance, again, because you want that specific outcome, starts bubbling out, okay? The next is need for attention. So attention we equate with, oh, she likes me, right? Or she wants to spend time with me. I'm getting her attention. So when you need somebody's attention, it projects lack of confidence. And all comes down to this attachment to an outcome. So to project confidence and to be actually more confident, you want to detach from the outcome. So what that means is when we talk about shamelessness, that was one of the first ones that we just mentioned. I gave an example of saying to a woman, of course I'm looking at you. I find you ridiculously attractive, okay? If you're attached to an outcome and you're saying that to the woman because you want the outcome of, I want to get her to like me, that's going to come out. But if you're just saying it because you're unapologetic about it, and you're not saying it because you think it's going to make her more attractive, you're just saying it because you're comfortable and mature about your desire for women and the fact that you're a man and you find women attractive, that's what makes you look confident. So when we talk about that, and one piece of advice that I give guys is enjoy, don't own, okay? You want to write that down. Enjoy, don't try to own. That's the attitude that you want to have with women, is when you go out with them and whether it's a date that you're going on, a girl you're talking to, maybe you're just at a bar and you see a woman that you want to approach, when you're attached to an outcome, it's really hard to enjoy the the interaction because it's all about whether or not you win or lose. Did I get her? Did I not get her? Did I get a phone number? Am I gonna get another date? And when you're dating a woman, a lot of insecurity comes from the fact that you're very insecure if she likes you enough to want to be your girlfriend. And we're worried about it and we're trying to impress her, and we get nervous when she's not answering our text because it's this desire to lock it down, right? It's this desire to achieve that outcome. But when you look at it like, I'm just gonna enjoy my time with a woman, it allows you to be shameless because you're not trying to impress her. You're like, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna enjoy her. I'm gonna enjoy my experience with her. If this date is the only date I have with her, I'm gonna enjoy it. If I hang out with her for 3 weeks and nothing comes of it, I'm gonna enjoy those 3 weeks. I'm gonna be myself, I'm gonna enjoy it. And the reason I said in the beginning, this is weird, it's counterintuitive, because when you enjoy something, even if it's not something she typically would enjoy, it actually makes her enjoy it. It makes you look confident and it makes her enjoy the experience. Meaning, if you bring a woman to some obscure band that, you know, is definitely not the kind of music that she would listen to, and you bring her to a concert and you're just rocking out to it and you're enjoying it without worrying about whether or not she's enjoying it, she'll have a better time, but she'll also look at you as like, this guy doesn't need anything from me, right? And that's a lot of what this comes down to, is not needing anything. Being sort of self-validated. We talk about the need for validation. A lot of times we want other people to approve and validate us, but if you can be self-validated and go, you know what, this is what I like, I'm proud of it, I'm into it, this is who I am, I'm proud of it, I'm into it. Now, again, I'm gonna repeat this because I know some guys are gonna go, well, see, I'm just myself. Here's the deal. We know, we all have a level of if we are being our best self. So if we've let ourselves go and we're being lazy and we're out of shape and it's like we know inside that this is not the best I can be, then be the best you can be. And that way you can say to yourself, I'm the best I can be. I may never be a male model, but I'm the best I can be. And that's enough for me. I'm comfortable. I'm happy with who I am. There's nothing about myself that I'm embarrassed about. Well, that will come out and you'll project that. And then you won't need anybody else's approval. You won't need her validation. And that will make you insanely attractive to her. So this third secret is lead the vibe. Lead the vibe. And what I mean by that is when you're with a woman, don't look for her to lead. When you do that, you're essentially saying, you have the higher position than me. You have the higher status than me. So I'm gonna wait and see what you do, and I'm gonna react to that. So if you're out on a date with a woman for the first time, right? Maybe you met her on Tinder, or maybe it's just a girl from your social circle and you're out on a date with her now. You go into that date and you start talking to her and you try to mirror her. That's what most guys do. I know that's what I used to do for a really long time. So if she was being very kind of casual and conservative and not really flirty with me, I would kind of mirror that back to her, and I would talk to her about these sort of neutral topics and not really express interest because she wasn't doing that to me. Well, confidence is about taking that risk, and taking the risk means you have to be the one to lead the vibe. So you don't wait for her to get flirty with you on a date. You lead it by you introduce flirting. You make a banter comment first. You tease her a little bit. In every aspect of it, as the man, just leading the vibe makes you more attractive. It makes you appear confident. One thing that I tell guys who are scared of getting rejected, and this is a term that my friend Chris Anderson uses, is escalation is attractive. So a lot of times we're nervous. Oh, I don't want to ask this woman out. I don't want to grab her hand as I walk her around. I don't want to go for the kiss. I don't want to invite her back to my place. So we don't do it because we're like, oh, it's going to make me look weird. Or again, it comes from this place of shamefulness, right? We feel shame around the fact that we're attracted to her. But that being said, when you don't do it, you actually appear like, oh, this guy was scared to do it. On the other hand, if you go for it, even if the woman was on the fence about you on the date and she's like, this guy is, if you go for the kiss at the end of the night, or you start flirting with her, or you invite her home, she's gonna assume you must get women. You must be confident, right? Because if you're inviting her home or you're going for the kiss, she's gonna go, oh, he must be used to women saying yes. He seems pretty confident. That escalation actually projects confidence. So you want to lead the vibe, whether it's being the one to flirt with her first, being the one to suggest, hey, this place kind of sucks, let's go somewhere else. Sometimes it's just the tone. The vibe really is the tone. And this even occurs sometimes when we're dealing with, let's say, coworkers or friends or anything, where you get in this group and everybody is kind of formal and you kind of feel each other out. And then eventually one person maybe cracks a joke, and then everybody's like, oh, okay, I can crack a joke too. You want to be the one to crack the joke first. You want to set the tone that you want the group to be in, or you want to set the tone that you want the date to be like. You want to set the tone, you want to lead the vibe. So the fourth confidence secret is something called cool vulnerability. Okay, cool and vulnerability. And I don't even know if I spelled vulnerability right, but I don't care because I'm gonna be vulnerable about the fact that my spelling and handwriting sucked. And that's sort of what cool vulnerability is in a sense. If you've ever seen somebody go up on stage and they go up, maybe somebody to accept an award, and they get up on stage and they start talking and they go, oh my God, I'm so nervous right now. And then they go into their speech. You never actually think that they're nervous. It actually appears like, whoa, this person's like confident because they just admitted this to everybody. On the other hand, we've all seen the speech where the person gets up there and you could tell they're really nervous, but they're trying to hide it. So being cool vulnerable is admitting, that you're nervous, right? So if you're talking to a girl and you say something kind of dumb, or you go to tell a joke and it bombs, you don't try to hide it. You don't feel shame about it. You go, oh my God, that joke just bombed. You got me nervous. I don't know. You're like, I can't even think straight with how cute you are right now, right? You're being vulnerable. And whether it's the fact that you're shy, whether it's the fact that, for me, I'm introverted. So for a really long time, like I said earlier, I had to hide that fact. I always tried to hide the fact that I'm introverted. Now, if I'm hanging out and I kind of, sometimes I space out, right? When I'm hanging out in a group, I go into my own head and I start spacing out and people are like, what's wrong? And I used to be like, oh, nothing. And the old me was defensive about it. And now I'm like, oh, I'm just an introvert. It's just me spacing out, right? I'm not ashamed of it. And you're able to laugh at yourself in a sense, right? Cool vulnerable means being able to laugh at yourself and almost being able to highlight some of the things that might have been embarrassing. Now, this idea, and I always preface this because I've had clients take this the wrong way. Being cool vulnerable is different than being completely vulnerable. Being completely vulnerable is if you're with a woman and you're like, yeah, my dad didn't love me enough when I was growing up and it made me suicidal. That's not how you want to be, right? Because that's not cool vulnerable, and that's not the vibe. If we go back to leading the vibe, that's not the vibe you want to set. So being cool vulnerable is really about being able to laugh at yourself about minor things. If you tell corny jokes sometimes, you can laugh about it. If you stumble over your words, you laugh about it, you make a joke about it. If you're like a hypochondriac, you're able to be cool, you make jokes about it. Whatever the thing is that you kind of have a little insecurity around, you laugh about it. So for instance, I had this friend that back in the day, he had like a little bit of people used to think he was gay. He kind of talked a little gay and he had some gay tendencies in terms of like the way he walked and stuff, but he was completely into women. And he used to be very insecure about that because he would, people would ask him that and assume it. And then it just became part of how he was, where he would talk to a woman and be like, do I look gay? Just be honest with me. Do I look gay? Because people tell me and then he would just, I'm not gay, right? And he wasn't ashamed of it, again, going back to shamelessness. And that's kind of what cool vulnerable is being like, okay, here's what I'm feeling. Oh, you just rejected me. I just went for the kiss and you turned your cheek. Being cool vulnerable is like, you gave me the cheek. Oh, that's rough, but I'm gonna keep trying, right? It's admitting that like, okay, I got the cheek. I'm not the elephant in the room. I'm acknowledging and I'm not ashamed of it. Okay, so the fifth secret is assume rapport. And this is something that I struggled with as an introvert. Growing up and most of my life, it took me a really long time to get comfortable around somebody. I'd have to talk to them 5 or 6 times before I kind of let my real self come out. And I wasn't that sort of cardboardy guy around them. And then one day I was watching my friend, and my friend has always done really well with women. He had tons of friends, but we were really alike. We had same sense of humor. We had, very, very similar people, except for the fact, and I couldn't figure it out, but finally I did. When he met people, he assumed rapport. Right away, he would talk to them like they were his old friends. We would be out at a bar and he would turn to talk to girls and he would just talk to them like he's known them forever. Hey, how's it going? Whereas me, I'd be like, hi, I'm Bobby. Nice to meet you. And like, I'd have this sort of guard up that he didn't have. And then finally it hit me. I go, he just meets people and talks to them like an old friend. And I started experimenting with that. And what's great about it is not only do you feel more confident, not only do you look more confident, but the other person then mirrors you. Again, you're leading the vibe. So if you talk to them like an old friend, they're gonna mirror that and talk to you like you're an old friend of theirs. And it allows you to get to a comfortable level a lot faster. So as you can see, a lot of these secrets intertwine. This idea of being shameless plays into this idea of being unattached to the outcome and being coolly vulnerable. And this idea of be the one to lead the vibe plays into this idea of assuming rapport. So all of these things, when you combine them together, they make you look and feel way more confident, which makes you way more attractive to women. So one of the things that I recommend, if you haven't done this already, is I have a quiz. It's 10 questions long. And what it does is it lays out 10 specific scenarios that happen with women. 10 very common things you're gonna run into with a woman, whether it's out on a date or you're talking to her at a party. And it lays out the situation, and then it gives you choices. How would you respond in this situation? And after you go through all 10 questions, you're gonna get the answers to what was the right way to respond in that situation. And why guys find this really, really powerful is you kind of see when we talk about the 5 secrets of confidence, all of these play out into how you're reacting in every single thing you do. Now be honest, are you making mistakes with women? If you wanna find out, I have a quiz that you can take that'll reveal all the subtle, nice guy mistakes you might be making. Now I'll warn you, most guys get 7 out of 10 questions wrong.